Hello, we are the group number 1. Our topic is inflectional morphology. My name is Nelly and I'm going to talk about what is inflectional morphology. Erika is going to talk about the difference between inflectional morphology and derivational morphology. Carla and Ever are going to talk about inflection in verbs. Verb present tense, verb past tense, verb present participle and verb past participle. Roxana is going to talk about inflection in nouns, noun plural and noun possessive. Gustavo is going to talk about inflection in adjectives, adjective comparative and adjective superlative. Now, what is inflection? It is a change in the signal, the grammatical function of nouns, verb, adverb, adjective, and pronouns. In other words, inflection morphemes are used to create a variant form of a word in order to signal grammatical information without changing the meaning of words. An inflection expresses grammatical categories with a fixation. Inflection is a process that word formation in which a word is modified to express different grammatical categories, such as tense, case, voice, aspect, person, number, gender, and mood. What is morphology? It is the study of words, how they are formed, and their relationship to other words and parts of words, such as root, word, prefix and suffix, and stems. We must know that English has only 8 inflection suffixes: noun plural, noun possessive, verb present tense, verb past tense, verb present participle, verb past participle, adjective comparative, and adjective superlative. What is inflectional morphology? Inflectional morphology is the study of processes, including a fixation and vowel change, that distinguish word forms in certain grammatical categories. But what is a fixation? A fixation is the process of adding a morpheme or affix to the word to create either a different word of that word or a new word with a different meaning. A fixation is the most common way of making new words in English. Inflectional morphology differs from derivational morphology or word formation, in that the inflection deals with the change made to existing words, and derivational deals with the creation of new words. We know that inflectional morphology refers to the inflectional or grammatical change in the word. For example, the word cat. If we add s, we get the word cat in an inflectional morphological change. Both inflection and derivation involve attaching affixes to words. For inflection change a word's form maintaining the same word, and derivational change words category creating a new word. That's all for me, thank you.
Difference between inflectional and derivational morphology.
Hi, how are you? I hope you are full of energy today, since right now that you know what inflectional morphology is, it's time to know the difference between inflectional morphology and derivational morphology. But why? Let me tell you that sometimes we tend to confuse those terms since they are so similar. But why are they similar? Let me tell you the first reason why they are similar is that they come from bound morphemes that can only be attached to another morpheme. It means that they cannot stand alone. And the second reason why inflectional and derivational morphemes are similar is that they make use of affixation, which is the process of adding a morpheme or an affix, either to create a new word with a different meaning or to create a different form of the word. But what is the difference between them? That is, the difference between inflectional morphology and derivational morphology is that inflectional or inflection is the process of creating a different form of the word, and it does not change its grammatical category or the part of a speech, and it is associated with nouns and verbs such as gender, number, and case. So in here, adjectives stay adjectives and nouns remain nouns. For example, if you add the suffix ed to the verb talk to show past tense, it then becomes talked, and there is still a verb, so we are not changing its grammatical category, right? So On the other hand, derivational morphology is the process of creating a new word. So in here, we attach a morpheme to a root. For example, if you add the suffix ness to the adjective happy, it then becomes a noun, which is happiness, right? However, there are some prefixes such as an and re that do not change the grammatical category of something. For example, if you add the prefix an to the adjective happy, it then becomes unhappy. So it is still an adjective. It does not change its grammatical category. Also, the suffixes dum and hood, as in neighborhood and kingdom, they do not change the grammatical category of a word. So, if you want to know more about inflectional morphology and its 8 inflection in English, so don't stop watching. Let's continue watching my other classmates.
Hello, today I am going to talk about verb present tense and verb past tense in inflectional morphology. First, we have the present tense. But with present tense, we are just talking for third person singular, because in the present tense, the third person singular verbs those are the only that change. So, for example, here we have she sings. So we can notice that in this part is add an s, right? This does not mean that this is a plural. No, this is the how we change the verb to make it in the third person singular. So we can notice here how we use it in the inflectional morphology. We add first the base form of the verb, that is sing, plus an s, and we have the result sings. Also, we have the verbs I-E-S. He cries. We add the original verb cry plus I-E-S. And then other one is with E-S. For example, Bruno goes. We add the verb here in the base form plus a E-S. Then we have the past tense with ed. An example of this is he played. So we can notice that for make this verb, we add here in inflectional morphology, we add the base form, that is play, plus a ed. So with these two combinations, we have the verb in the past. We have here played. So this change occurs in every single person, including the third person singular. So, and finally, we have the zeromorphism. What is zeromorphism? Well, the zeromorphism is when we have an exception in some verbs. For example, in the verb hit, this verb is in the past tense, because if we want to use this verb in the present tense, we only just add a s. So in a s in this case is in past, and it changes. So when we have this kind of verbs, we use this symbol that mean that is a zeromorphism. Here is nothing, not an s, nor sorry, in this case, not because it's past tense, not a ed or wherever other things that we have for past. So this is the symbol that we use to identify the zeromorphism. So we said he hit the ball. And the other exception that we have is in the same, right? In some verbs, in this case, these are irregular verbs. So here we have she cut the cake. So in this case, we use cut plus this symbol, that means that is nothing here. We cannot add a ed because it is wrong. So these symbols we use to identify that here is nothing or the zero morpheme. Thank you so much. This was my presentation.
Hello, now let's continue with another inflectional suffix that we have, and it is the ing suffix. We use the ing plus the verb to turn it into present participle. For example, we have the verb sing, then we add the suffix ing, and we get singing. This is an inflected verb, but it is in the present participle, so that's why we have the ing. The same thing what happens with walk, that turns into walking, take turns into taking. So this is the inflectional suffix that we have in the present participle. And here we have two examples that are sing plus the ing turns into singing, and walk plus the ing turns into walking. That is another inflectional suffix that we can find in the present participle. Now we have another inflectional suffix that is en. We use en, this suffix, to inflect the verb into the past participle. Here we have one example. The verb taken is the verb take plus en, that is for the past participle. We have the verb taken. Also seen, we have seen, that is see plus en. We have the verb in past participle, and also with eaten, that is eat plus en. We have the verb in past participle, eaten. These verbs are inflected because they remain verbs, but they are in the past participle. So we are changing the tense, so that's why they are inflected. Now we have some exceptions here, like for example, felt. This verb is in the past participle, but it doesn't have the suffix en. So we represent it like feel plus the past participle we have felt. The same thing happens with the verb found, that is the verb find plus the past participle we have the verb found. These verbs are inflected, but they don't have the en suffix because they are exceptions. They are not regular. Another exception or another thing that we can find in the past participle, that is the zero morpheme. The zero morpheme means that there is no morpheme, or there is no suffix added to the verb, but it is inflected. For example, we have the verb let in past participle it remains the same in the present tense or in the base form, but it is the same in the past participle. So we have the verb let plus the zero morpheme, that is let, but in past participle. So this verb is inflected. The same things happen with run, cut, and so on. There are verbs that they have the zero morpheme, but they are inflected because they are in the past participle tense. So now we have in the present participle we have an inflectional suffix, that is the ing that we add to the verb, like take. We turn it into taken. The verb is inflected in the present participle, and we have the suffix en in the past participle. That means that the verb is inflected too, with some exceptions, like irregular verbs that they do not follow this rule. They are inflected, but the suffix en doesn't appear in the verb. And also we have the zero morpheme in verbs like let, run, and cut. Thank you.
Hi, in this section I will talk about nouns. Well, as my classmate has introduced, inflectional morphemes have aspects of the grammatical function of a word, and this is not the exception of nouns. But why does the inflectional morpheme take nouns? Well, in this case, inflectional suffixes have grammatical meaning only and cannot perceive a derivational suffix. So, in these eight inflectional morphemes, we have two inflectional morphemes that are nouns and that are divided into regular and irregular. And then we have possessive. But in this moment, we are going to focus on plurals that are the regular and irregular. So, talking about the regular plural nouns, we have the inflectional morphemes as the common ones in which we only add s or es at the end of the noun. So, for example, as in the word book plus s, we say books. And in a word glass, plus es, we say glasses. Now, talking about irregular plural nouns, exist exceptions to turn the singular nouns to plural nouns because in this case we don't have to add s or es at the end. Therefore, the zero morpheme or null morpheme takes place as an invisible affix. For example, the words sheep, children, or people can be analyzed by adding a null affix for the plural forms. And so the process of adding null affix is called zero derivation. Last but not least, the possessive case marks the ownership. So when a singular possessive noun ends in s or c, it still takes the s, so the pronunciation of is just changes from the s to the z sound. And the plural possessive nouns which end in s, just the pronunciation is a simple plural noun, as in the 5 days work.
Hello teacher, I hope you're very safe and well at home. Right now I'm going to continue talking about the topic. I'm going to continue developing the topic. Well, as you already realized, my classmates explained to you about some topic about the inflectional morphology, right? And they already say about nouns, about verbs, and some others, right? But right now I'm going to continue talking about this. In this occasion we're going to talk about adjectives, right? So let's start with the topic, right? In English, adjectives only take two inflections. Those are comparative and superlative, right? Well, when we talk about the comparative, we know that the inflection occurs when we have er, right? When we are the suffix er, right? For example, in the word tall, we have tall. In the comparative way, we add er, right? So the words change to taller, right? The tall becomes the taller, right? But we made an inflection without changing the meaning, right? That's what inflectional means, right? Inflectional morphology means. So we make the change but without changing the meaning of the word, right? And also we have another word, for example, smart, we add er, becomes to smaller, right? And also we have the superlative. As we know, in this we only add the est, right? For example, in the same word of tall, we only add the est, right? Tallest, right? So the inflection occurs in this word, right? And notice that all the examples only have one or two syllables, right? Because adjective with more two syllables can be made comparative and superlative by addition of more and most, right? For example, we have the word beautiful. If we want to make it about comparative, we add the more beautiful, right? More beautiful. If we want to make it superlative, we add the most beautiful, right? But we have to take care about this because those are not inflectional morphology, right? Because as I mentioned, we inflection the word, right, without changing the meaning. And that's the adjective where occurs the inflectional. Okay, in conclusion, we said that inflectional morphology is when we have a word and the word has an inflection, right, but without changing the meaning, right? In English, there are 8 inflections, right, and we already talked about this. We have in nouns, we have the possessive case and the plural case, adding the s, right, and the apostrophe and s. And we have in adjective, we have in comparative, and in superlative, we have also in verbs, we have in the third person singular, in the present tense, and we have in the past tense, in the progressive, and the last we have in the past participle, right? So those are the 8 inflection that we have in English. So that's all for us. Thank you for watching the video.